Hi guys, my name is Tatiana and I'm starting a series of reviews of different charts, and I planned one other person to take for the first video, but just a few days ago I actually came across a very interesting personality. It's a musician, singer, and I decided that because of some positions in her chart and also what's going on now in the sky, it's kind of like a better fit for my first video. So Billie Eilish, if you don't know, is a kind of sensational singer, songwriter, and also dancer. Her brother is producing actually and writes with her songs, but she has some ideas for the videos, so she is kind of like a multi-talented creative person. So how I came across her songs actually is that I was googling for a fusion song on YouTube, and then just some other songs popped up, and it just caught my attention that there was a song, When the Party's Over, and it was over 300 million views, which was insane. I thought, like, how is it possible that one song can get so many views? I'm not really into pop music a lot, however I do dance socially, and so once in a while I just check out some music. So once I started doing some research, I realized that this is a very interesting personality and singer, and although some songs were really on the controversial side, I would say, so they were kind of like darker moods, overall I was just impressed. I really loved her music, and I just started doing more research astrology wise, what actually is going on, so how old is she, when she became popular and things like that. So Billie Eilish has actually over 35 million followers, and interestingly I watched some videos from January and she had 3 times less. Her fan base grows really fast, and if you look for her Instagram, it's kind of like strange images here. So she likes really baggy clothes and some kind of provocative images, and also like kitsch fashion, and lots of baggy sweatsuits and things like that. So anyways, so if you just Google her on YouTube, you also will see Bury a Friend, some really weird stuff, and some songs are really outstanding. I have to say, I really liked a few songs. Her music videos are also very catchy, so you can see, like, this is just the first video I've seen, When the Party is Over, and then it's just she made that video from a picture. One of her fans gave her a picture of a girl crying with black tears, and so all of a sudden she just got this idea for the music video, and it's one of the most popular music videos on YouTube right now. You can check out the links in the caption, in the description. I'll just link something which I find more over representative of her art, and also a couple of interviews and some documentary stuff, so that you can kind of get an impression of Billie if you are not familiar with her and her music. So now here is the chart, and according to Rodden rating, it's considered to be an A chart. It's difficult to work with charts which are not confirmed, because they are kind of confirmed from some source. So how I work with astrology and charts is that if I'm not sure about the time of birth 100%, I kind of look at the span of possible times. Now, if we're taking into account a famous personality, there's quite a big chance that also some information might be not confirmed. It's quite common when, for example, on the website Famous Birthdays and some other websites, there's some controversial data. So I'm careful taking the time which I found, 11:30, as her real time. I hope that the date actually is December 18th, because it was quoted on some websites, including Wikipedia and Astro.com, Astrotheme, and a few more websites. But I would say that 11:30 a.m. probably is more of a rounded time. According to some articles, Billie quoted that time on Twitter. According to Rodden rating, it's kind of from memory. I would say that plus minus half an hour probably. If you're new to astrology, I recommend watching my video How to Create a Natal Chart, and so you can do it yourself. So here is the natal chart without any prognostics yet. So basically it represents the positions of planets at the time of birth of Billie. She was born in a family of 2 actors and had homeschooling. Education was very close to her brother and still is, and they are collaborating with her brother on her project. And actually how she became known is thanks to her brother, because he talked her into performing his song Ocean Eyes, which I really loved, by the way. Check it out. So this song was not taken for his band, so she agreed to perform it just for him, and later also wanted to do a choreography for her dance, because she's been training as a dancer and she wanted to be a dancer, but she had some injury. They uploaded it to SoundCloud. It just became almost overnight a viral song and got 2 million views. That's when she kind of became popular. She is Sagittarius Sun and also Aquarius Moon and Pisces Rising. Now, even if her time might shift a little bit, plus minus 15 minutes or maybe even 30 minutes back and forth, she still will stay Aquarius Moon, and she actually just matches that image as well by her personality, I have to say. And she is most likely Pisces Rising as well. What can we say about the chart? First of all, I always look at these big 3, Sun, Moon and Descendant. If we look at the Sun, which is one of the most important elements of the chart, Sun is conjunct South Node, that's one thing. Sun is conjunct 2 other planets, Venus and Pluto, and also Sun is, we can say that also Sun is conjunct Chiron and Mercury as well, although it's an out of sign conjunction, but still it's usually we take about 10 degrees for Sun conjunction. So they are all kind of like in one stellium, this 2 sign stellium. So they are, if we count degrees, they are within 30 degrees. So it's a really significant position, 3 personal planets plus a node, and also such a narrow conjunction. Of course, it brings that intensity in her life as well, right? So now Sun also is very close to the galactic center, and galactic center is on the 27th degree, and when nodes are so close to the Sun, we know that she was born close to an eclipse. So in this case, she was born, I believe, after the eclipse, and that's also quite a powerful situation. And interestingly, also the last eclipse, one of the last eclipses in July, was very close to her Jupiter, pretty much on her Jupiter, and whereas full moon in August 2019 was on her Uranus, which we also can tell us that, because Uranus has a very strong position in her chart, we can tell that there could be significant events in her life as well during these months. Sun conjunct South Node is a very significant position. It makes the person less focused on her egoistic desires. So we can expect that the person with this position might be a bit more reserved, like humble in a way. Sagittarius has pretty outgoing energy, and people who are Sagittarius, they're easy to notice and they're fairly friendly. They can have this kind of mask as if everything is all right. She probably doesn't have this mask because she is quite clear that she doesn't want to smile. She even has a song like this, or like quotes. She often says that I don't like smiling, I don't want to be asked to smile. We're talking about someone who is 17 years old. So she has changed quite a bit from the last years, even evolving each time. And as she mentions, the only thing she is sure about that she's gonna change like a lot. So she doesn't like to be the same, she wants to be changing. And that a lot comes as well from Uranus. So, and Moon is ruled by the Uranus, that desire to experiment, desire to be original, to say something which is especially connected to planets in Sagittarius, to connected to truth, connected to things that matter to her, and also not being afraid to be weird, not to be afraid to be not like other people. Now, we haven't mentioned yet that the ruler of the ascendant, Jupiter, there are two rulers. You can take traditional ruler, Jupiter, and also Neptune. I work with both. Jupiter is in a strong position. It's an exaltation sign, quite close to the exaltation degree. Exaltation degree of Jupiter is 15 degrees of Cancer, and it's trine to Mars, and Jupiter is ruling ascendant. That kind of adds, and plus Sirius on Sirius, that adds to the success as well. With her press, and press is the third house, she might be a bit more of a kind of lovable person, right? So people easy to relate to. But when she sings, most likely she will be more abrupt, more fast, and Mars is ruling dance as well, so she's a really good dancer. So yeah, and Mars is connected to her Jupiter, which is in a stronger position than some other planets. So we also see Jupiter is very close to Sirius here, and Sirius is one of the more favorable stars. So that's a good position for her as well. Yeah. Sirius is a fixed star. Also, I look at the elemental balance in the chart. So you see this small table here. Her chart has different modality, cardinal, fixed, and mutable, but there are way more planets in the mutable signs, also ascended in immutable signs. So there's quite a bit of mutability here. However, she has some planets in fixed sign as well. So that is a stellium in Aquarius, Moon with Uranus and Neptune. Also Ceres is here, but we're not going to take asteroids today. She has some cardinal energy. So if you're new to astrology, again, like mutability is about change, about wanting to adapt, about ability to adapt. It's kind of like a river, you know, it flows. It doesn't stay in one spot. It just wants to flow somewhere. So, and those people can be good communicators as well. And but essentially, it's just not about staying fixed in one particular state or energy. And that's a lot about also her Uranus moon and Uranus moon, I say, like, because her moon is conjunct Uranus, even though it's not a very exact conjunction. But let's say if she were born a little bit later, it would be a bit more exact. I mean, not as exact, it's still like pretty wide orb, but because moon is ruled by Uranus, it's already affected by Uranus, but it's even in conjunction, so it's kind of like a double influence of Uranus on the moon. People who have moon in Aquarius, they tend to be more cosmopolitic. They want to be friends with everyone or many people. At least they want to be friendly, even though they might be kind of distant and sometimes even cold, but more in their mind, I would say. But essentially they come from a more humanistic point of view, although this also can be, especially with Neptune and Uranus sandwich in the moon here, it can be an indication for someone who lives in that outside world, maybe even really strange world, weird world in some way, who would not be perceived as an ordinary person and someone who fit in. So it's someone who is definitely outside of the box. We have to take into account aspects as well, and even though moon is trining Saturn here quite in a quite exact trine, if it's on the 12th degree, it still has these qualities of with this desire to change, you know, because also moon is applying to Uranus, so it's an applying aspect. It adds strength to this aspect, and she's coming from a dreamy world to the weird world, let's say, from Neptune moving towards Uranus. It's between transpersonal planets, and so in her work and in her perception of the world, I would say there will be definitely influence of more over some kind of energies outside, concepts outside of your own personality, your own micro world. Now, to add to that is also she has Sun in Sagittarius, sign which favors people of different nations. It's a desire to travel as well, and exchange with people from different nationalities. Also about expanding, about some kind of wisdom, spreading certain knowledge, like tapping into subconscious and also tapping into deeper things. So in her case, actually Venus is close to Sun, and Venus is conjunct Pluto, so both of them are conjunct Sun, Venus and Pluto, and Venus is on the midpoint between Sun and Pluto, possibly conjunct MC, career point. Career point in this case, again, like because houses might shift a bit with the time shift depending on her birth time, I would look at career point in this case, possibly conjuncting either of those planets. It could be closer to Pluto, between Pluto and Venus, it could be closer to Venus, it can be closer to Sun as well. They are still together, so definitely we can see her career exploding so suddenly. Release of her new album, in such cases it's very often Pluto is involved, because Pluto is something which is a lot, and Venus is in almost exact sextile to Uranus, and that means also that if it's conjunct MC, career point, that and Sun, so she can come into limelight pretty fast, right? So, and be loved by people. Venus also is sextiling Moon as well. Moon is, I mean, it's a bit of a wider orb here, but still is. And Pluto is sextiling Moon, so also Pluto sextile Moon brings those that ability to be able to express your emotions, to be able to dive deeper. Pluto is in fire sign, and Moon is in an air sign. It's more over playing with the idea of certain things. You know, of course she does feel it on a deeper level, but she also is probably a lot in her mind, right? So just like her emotions always are connected with the mind, but staying in her mind just makes her create that imaginary world or react to something, first of all, from her perception. Now, she only has one planet in an earth sign, and then also an asteroid, and also she has Chiron. It's a very slow moving celestial bodies. A few planets in air signs, that is Aquarius and stellium in Aquarius, and also in Gemini. And she has some fire energy as well. Sun, Venus and Pluto plus South Node are in Sagittarius. Jupiter and Mars an ascendant, and Lilith in water sign. And of course it's not surprising that Lilith is so close to her ascendant. Like, I would believe that could be her chart, because most likely Lilith could be near the ascendant, either in the 12th or 1st house, because she kind of has that slightly like rebellious, a little bit sinister image sometimes, although she's pretty friendly in the interviews, but in some of her videos there is this element. And because it's in Pisces, it's more over also like kind of like ethereal. Our perception of her is not just one-dimensional. She's kind of like fleeting away, right? So it can vary, right? So it's a mutable sign. Her Mercury is in mutual reception with her Saturn. And Saturn is in a sign which is usually related to our communication, Gemini. And it's in mutual reception with Mercury. What is mutual reception? And basically these planets kind of support each other, even though they are in different signs, not the sign which they rule. They can sort of swap position in certain moments and jump into their sign, giving strength to the planet, to themselves and each other, right? They do not have an aspect here in this case, like a direct aspect. Well, anyways, what I'm saying is that Mercury's, I can't say it's like very strong here in this chart, but it's noticeable, right? So, and when I was watching her videos, it occurred to me that she kind of reminds me of David Bowie. So she's different than David Bowie, of course, right? But there's something similar. So if we take a look at David Bowie's chart, and here I actually didn't take his time. He usually is known as 9 a.m. But there is also a couple of other times which I mentioned in his chart. Also, it's considered to be a rating A, but I feel like it's not very reliable. So I'll just take it his sunrise chart. So I put sun on the ascendant at the sunrise time, which might be fairly close to his time if he's born at 9 a.m. Anyways, so what I'm saying is that his Mercury is actually almost not at the same degree, it's at the 8th degree, but her Mercury is at the 4th degree. So they have a very similar Mercury. David also has Sun in Capricorn conjunct Mars, but just the main thing is that Sun is in mutual reception with Saturn. David also has this Lilith, for example, on the degree where Billie has South Node and very close to her Sun. Her Mercury is very close to his Mercury. Billie has actually a Tau square. It's not super exact, but Saturn is in a pretty exact square to Mars. And yes, Mars could be in the 12th house. We don't know it for sure, but it can be in the 12th house. So, and then the square to the 12th house from Saturn ruling her moon as well, because Saturn also rules her moon together with Uranus. It's quite a powerful thing, you know. It could bring some tendencies. It can bring up some kind of doubts on yourself, and also self-destructive behavior. And if we look at her video clips, she's not afraid to put huge spiders in her mouth, you know, or put them on herself, you know. And she has like a lot of weird stuff, in a way, scorpionic things going on. But if we take a look at this Tau square, it is like 3 malefics in a Tau square: Pluto, Mars. Mars is together with Lilith as well. If we take it, it's also significant, and with Saturn. So she might be attracted to some kind of pessimistic Deca themes, and also desire to dig a little bit deeper, to explore, and to both in love and in her imagination, you know. It's subconscious as well if it's 12th house. And again, like, according to this chart, moon is right on the cusp of the 12th house, which also, I'm not sure how well she sleeps, but with Uranus, Mars, and Uranus rule of the 12th and the 12th, I mean, she could be psychic in a way, right? So, but I think that she might also have problems with sleep, so I'm not sure if it's true or not. I guess that also it affects her imagination, and of course 12th house is related to the voice as well, so she has a few indications for that she could be a singer, right? So also she could be an artist, like moon conjunct Neptune and close to Uranus. Also she can be an experimental artist, she can work with film. So, and she is in a way a filmmaker at heart, right? So I know she used to do some photography. I'm sure so that she can in the future be more known also for her video stuff. So she could work with art, she can be an artist. So I would even recommend her to explore various types of art and cinema and different things, so that could help her to put the energy of her stellium and of her planets to something creative. And apparently that's a big need in her as well, to be an artist first thing. Now if we go to some facts as well, is that in terms of nodes, I want to say is that I mentioned already that her south node is on the galactic center, so, and her sun is as well very close, so that pretty much gives a kind of portal connecting to the cosmos and to things that are beyond perception of an ordinary person. I'm not saying she's abnormal, but I'm just saying that people who have a planet on the galactic center usually would take probably like 1 or 2 degree maximum. They would have special abilities in some way, right? So so basically they kind of can do channeling. If she learns how to do channeling, she could download that information and just share with other people. Now, it is a bit debatable whether it's a good for the good or not for the good. Like, for example, on her Instagram, some fans are kind of wondering, why does she's following 666 people? Like, is she not afraid of that number? Like, any connections to some kind of demonic powers? So some people think that she might be, right? I'm not saying she has anything like that. I'm just saying that she has, with the chart like that, she has to be aware of her mental health. Like, with such a chart, there is a risk of kind of losing sense of reality in a way. So I think it's a great thing that she is trying to sublimate all these energies into her artwork, and it's admirable how brave she is to try to be herself. I don't think she fully knows who she is, because Moon is conjunct Neptune in such a situation. Like, you can also idealize your mom, you can also maybe idealize women in her life in some way, but also it can get some kind of like desire to escape into your own world, right? So she's inventing a world for herself, and she is living there like Alice in a Wonderland, right? But that's her own type of wonderland, right? So maybe with spiders, maybe with killing friends in her songs. So like, she has a song like burying a friend, or I mean, it's really dark lyrics. I find it, maybe I'm a little bit old-fashioned, but I find sometimes it's just strange how much we have in the contemporary songs these darker themes. But at the same time, I have to say that she has some kind of healing power in her voice. So, and I think her brother was the first one, and her mom was the first one to notice that, is that her voice is really special. I cannot include in the video right now music just because of the copyright, but if you check the videos, you'll understand what I mean. Like the song I Love You and Ocean Eyes and a few more, they're really very touching. So of course, it's no wonder that so many people are following her and feel connected, that she understands them, and she's trying to be very reachable for people. In her interviews, she's saying that it's really important for her to be very approachable, to be reachable, as she says. So I think it's also Moon in Aquarius, and with the Neptune and that connection to Sagittarius is just trying to be more of a, I'm not saying easy to understand, because she actually does mentions that she wants to be more of a enigmatic, right? But in terms of more relatable, right? So someone who does still care what people think, even though she said she might not. In my opinion, what gives her this kind of special voice is that stellium in Aquarius, and also her Mercury is conjunct Chiron, and Chiron is about healing. So I don't know if she will stay a singer, if she will want to sing, because being Mercury close to South Node as Sun, especially Sun conjunct South Node, it kind of brings the probability of changing career path. So she might at some point want to change her career. Part of her might just feel unfulfilled, like that she could do more, she could be more, not in terms of egoistic desire to be someone big, although Pluto still so close to the Sun might be affecting and wanting to kind of be all over the world, right, in Sagittarius. Jupiter also is in a position here, right, to her Mercury, and there's an asteroid here as well, which can kind of make her fight for what she likes and what she thinks is more real or truthful. We have to understand that she is a celebrity who just became famous really fast, and it's not typical for when people, yes, she's a prodigy in some way, but just like the amount of followers she has, like they are really it can be intense. So to balance all this, she needs to have some kind of, to sort of guide herself. But her Venus is burnt by the sun in some way, right? But which can bring together with Pluto so close, right? Some kind of intense emotions in her love life. If it's on the career point, so close to MC, I mean, she will be loved by people. People will aspire to her. They would want to kind of be her in some way, but she might sort of want to shy away in some way, hide behind some certain masks just to protect herself. And interestingly, in terms of some facts, she was saying that she likes these baggy clothes, loose clothes. Kind of, to some people it might seem tasteless, right, for her age. Like, she doesn't like showing her figure, at least right now. Maybe later she will. She mentioned she likes high heels, but I don't know how much she wears them. But essentially she just wears a lot of sweatsuits, and she wears a lot of like chains, because she mentioned that she's deficient of iron, but I think it partially could be probably because she's also a vegetarian. She was brought, or maybe even vegan, she was brought up without meat. And so basically she just says that she's wearing chains, and she always wanted as a child to even lick, like taste coins or metal poles and things like that. She just likes the taste of metal. That's why she's wearing it. But I think it just comes partially from also this Uranus connected to her sun and to her Venus as well. So that desire to be not like others. And with these positions also, I thought that she should probably explore fashion design. And she did mention, just before this video, I found that she actually is considering creating her own brand, which I think is a great thing to also involve her Neptune connection to Saturn. Saturn is sewing and significator of design and structure, and also some kind of fabrics, leather and different fabrics. So, and Moon also, and Neptune, right? And Neptune also is fashion, right? And Venus is fashion. So in her case, they are connected. So let's take a look how they are connected. Saturn is the ruler of stellium here. Uranus is invention, to create something original, new, to rebel against something, to revolutionize something. And they are together with Saturn ruling Neptune. So Neptune has kind of like support here, even though it doesn't feel really comfortable in Aquarius. But interestingly enough, like this generation, when Neptune was in Aquarius and Uranus was there, it brought quite a bit of interest for filmmaking and videos. So these guys are very into internet and technology. They've learned how to use iPads earlier than we did, probably. So I assume that if she becomes an artist also in fashion, so she would kind of experiment with materials, or at least I would recommend to experiment with materials, combining both the old techniques with some new. And yeah, so let's see. It would be interesting to see how it will all unravel. Now, in terms of moods, like she did mention that she's not really happy with herself, she doesn't like herself and things like that. So she can, of course, be prone to spleen, and also to kind of desire to attraction to, I don't know if she's into pain and things like that, but she definitely might want to experiment with whether psychedelic stuff, or I would be careful with it in her case. Also, she has a lot of conjunctions with fixed stars. I am not going to go into that because I'm just not as using them as much yet, but I did notice, I checked her positions of planets with fixed stars, and I was a bit shocked how many conjunctions she has with fixed stars. And a few of them, they are over Saturnian nature, and it might bring, of course, those moods and darker moods. Now, her node is in the 10th house, but I think it might also be in the 9th, because the way she is related to her brother, I mean, even if it's in the 10th, it would be connected to karmic relationship with her parents, especially dad, because South Node is conjunct Sun, and so that is about connection with that. And it's more over also position when you kind of might feel that your dad is either unreachable in some way, or you just cannot fully get close to him, or it's not only in the reality, but it just comes from past lives as well. Also, maybe it's just that this is another time when your souls meet each other, right? So, and something to do in this life as well. Jupiter has a stronger position here than Saturn, for example. Jupiter is our teachers, and it can be older brother as well. Interestingly, actually, I made a chart for. This is a chart with her brother, Finneas. I forgot how to pronounce his name, but we'll call him Finneas. His sun is in Leo. There is a chance that her 6th house starts on his sun as well. But in terms of synastry, they have a few oppositions going on here. Her Mars, Lilith opposite his Mercury, Venus, which it can be a kind of like good position for collaboration, meaning that you would just have arguments, but you can still create something together. And also his moon, possibly, I'm not saying it is, but possibly is opposite her sun, also on the nodal axis. I don't know exactly, because we don't know his time of birth, but his moon is either in Gemini or Cancer. Might be in Cancer as well, I don't know. So sorry guys, I lost the trail of my thought. It's already late here. It's very important to notice also the influence of her brother on her, and also her on him. So there is quite a bit of a connection here. We see that 3rd house possibly is ruled by Venus. I mean, in any case, let's see if it's ruled by Venus and 3rd house is related to siblings. Venus is together with Sun, with her kind of part of her core, right? So, and if it's ruled by Mercury, it's even more possible, like for the collaboration, especially because it's together with Jupiter here as well, I think. I mean, in any case, it's either related to her MC or it's related to her Mercury, and Mercury is also our voice, right? So I believe that voice is ruled by Moon and Mercury, and our 2nd and 3rd house as well. Now her 2nd house is in Mars, and both according to Placidus and equal house system, it's still in Mars. So, and Mars is in the 12th house, the house of these many singers have planets in the 12th house, and also people who have Mars ruling the voice house and finances as well. It's more over people who would say fast what they think, right? Who would be very sort of like outgoing in some way, voicing things. And her Mars is connected to Pluto and Saturn as well, as we remember. So of course it cannot be just comfortable messages all over. Now another thing which I notice is that even Uranus is on the Sagittarius degree. So there's quite a bit of a Sagittarius touch here, and also Pisces. So we see 12 degree possibly Moon, and also Jupiter, it's a Piscean degree. Even Mars on the 7th degree shows that she is gonna collaborate with a man, with a young man, so not much older than her. So, and she is in partnership with her brother, right? So they have kind of like this sort of over super intimate relationship, and they both say, I mean, in some cases it might be a concern, I would say, when people are that connected, because there are cases when it can get to the point when it's just too intense, and one way or another especially considering that sibling, which is ruled by Mercury and Venus in his case, Venus because it's a sister and Mercury because it's a sibling, so they are both squaring Pluto. So in his chart, it's really indicated that sister will be sort of like an intense person, right? So even though some people say that it's him who writes songs with some kind of darker lyrics, but not necessarily. I think that they both are contributing to that. We don't know. What is interesting though is that his Mercury significator of a sibling is in its sign. Venus is also ruled by Mercury, so of course it indicates that he will adore his sister, right? So he will like her. Now this is a little bit of a intensive position, I would say. Can bring some kind of complications, but it can also bring a lot of energy into desire to create something together, something intense. I would say that he probably adds a bit of a structural element to his sister. Here is his Saturn, right? So here is his Mars. If in terms of success, so his Jupiter is actually, look at where it's positioned, 18 degrees of Aquarius. And she has there very close Uranus. Uranus is ruling filmmaking and also like revolutionary things, right? Desire to change. So, and his Jupiter is there. So basically it means that he is amplifying influence in some way of her Uranus, right? So in a way he's helping her to project herself into the world, because it's also her Uranus is in the 12th house supposedly, right? So he kind of gets, I guess, that talent out of her and helps her to put it out of the world, and she as well, right? So now her Jupiter in Cancer, we don't know which house it falls into, Finneas, but it's sextile actually to her Venus, interestingly. So which also will help the success as well. To Venus represents it could be her lover as well, but it's together with Mercury, so they are both making an aspect to, oh, actually it doesn't show, maybe the orb is different. This is her Jupiter. Interesting. So what we see here on the synastry chart is that his Mars and Venus are in trine to her Mercury and Chiron. So this is a very good also combination for writing something together, right? So I'm not surprised that they do it, because that's why they always speak about highly of each other, and they value each other's contribution as well. There's a lot you can say here. I just have to sit a little bit longer with the chart to study. There's also something interesting. Let's say if we put I work with a few different techniques just quickly. So in terms of energies of this year, right? So Billie just had recently full moon on her Uranus, so we can say that this month probably is important for her. And she also has, if we take a look at what's going on in terms of progressions, she has now planets in Capricorn, so her Sun is very close to 11th house cusp and also transiting Saturn. So Saturn is, it's hard to say what it can bring, but it can bring some more success, but it can also put some kind of something related to her dad. Maybe she just has to take care of her dad, or maybe some kind of like accounting. I would expect some events with her father, boss, whoever is her boss. I don't know if she has a boss. Saturn is ruling her 12th house and 11th house, so it can also bring changes in her work. We will see what will happen, but I'm not a big fan of predictions, to be honest. But in general, Venus and MC just moving closer to 11th house, so we can expect some rewards as well. You might get an award because Saturn is related to how other people notice our work and maybe she will get some kind of nomination. Now, in terms of ascendant, so we have here actually Neptune conjunct the ascendant, transit in Neptune. Also a good time to go into some kind of Neptunian type of activities. That is, it could be art, music, as she's doing already music. It can be also fashion, also maybe trying photography to model more, filmmaking. So I would really look into that as well. Now they are squaring her natal Venus, and in general ascendant squares her natal Venus. It's kind of a contradiction between MC and AC, you know, often how people see us and what we are known for, so not always very related. It can kind of differ a little bit. So progressed Mars is in her first house, so that also can bring certain restlessness, and it's still in Pisces, but it's kind of close to her ascendant, so she might feel like she might want to move more, to dance more, to be more acute, you know, more precise maybe. It's conjunct transiting Neptune, but still. Anyway, so let's hope that she will create something in filmmaking, but she might go on also, can be bring also some kind of like intimate relationship, more of a sexual type of like 50 Shades of Grey type of thing. All right. Now Uranus is transiting her second house, so again in this case she cannot expect a very steady income, but it can go up and down, it doesn't matter. But it's interestingly, it just passed recently, and now we'll go back to her part of fortune if we take that ascendant, because we don't know exactly. But if the ascendant is on the 70 degrees, her part of fortune was already conjunct Uranus. It will be again conjunct. I mean, it's still in proximity to her part of fortune, so she can get some kind of unexpected financial rewards. Now, another thing which I would notice is that Pluto and Saturn conjunction is going to happen in her 11th house, which also is sort of a transformational thing. And I mean, she's gonna come of age in a few years, right? And later she will have some transits, and 24 years usually is the Jupiter cycle, so she probably can have some kind of breakthrough, since Jupiter is quite good in her chart, so she might have some rewards. We don't know what rules her 8th house, so I'm not gonna look at any significations here. So it can be ruled by Venus, can be ruled by Mars. If this shifts a little bit, ruler of the 8th is with Venus, and Venus is together with Pluto. That brings also the intensity of her songs. I really hope that people who listen to those songs, they understand that it's just fiction. It's sort of like playing with some ideas. I mean, we live in the world when we can't just say everyone what's right, what's wrong, right? But I think we are bordering this age when people are starting experiment with a lot of darker stuff. I'll take a look also at when she became famous, what actually happened in terms of transits and solar arcs and other techniques. But the main thing is that Uranus stellium is really powerful, and Sagittarius, right? So she has 2 stelliums, and also these planets are quite connected. There is this Tau square, and also this connection with her brother. Now, to cope with her darker moods, I would recommend, as I mentioned, doing as much as possible art, being able to experiment with different forms. But I would still recommend to not just play with whatever comes into mind just because it's kind of cool and it's interesting, but actually look at what I am bringing to this world, right? So because even though her sun with her south node might want to sort of kind of not disappear, I'm not saying disappear, but kind of blend in with the world, right? So not to be as much positioning herself as an ego-based personality. she can be spiritual, so, and she can do a lot in terms of promoting through her life something good, right? So as much as she can also influence people in some other way, right? So when she shows some kind of experiments, and people might just copy it and in a more destructive way. So in this case, I would really kind of be more conscious choosing what do you put out there. I still admire her for who she is, because I think it's a relief to see someone who is that free, right? So, but as for example, I'm an astrologer and a counselor as well, I understand what lies beneath it, right? So I do see the turmoil as well, and if she wants to keep herself in more or less balanced state, then she just has to look for some ways to create art and experimentation also through more positive themes, which I don't think it would be easy for their case with Finneas to stay in them. But I would just maybe experiment with films, like fiction films, and really go into futuristic stuff, because they can probably write something about other worlds, maybe like a TV show or some kind of philosophical thing, so they can just explore with this as well. Yeah, and I hope that her family is essentially, like, she has a very strong connection to her family as well, and through her brother. Her family is ruled by Mercury, and in a way it's good for her to change her home once in a while. But in some way Saturn maybe might be a little bit resisting to that. So, because her third house is also ruled, and Saturn is in the third, in mutual reception with Mercury ruling Mercury, and Mercury rules Saturn. So I think she would probably be more towards staying a bit longer in one spot rather than jumping from one to another a lot, although she does travel a lot. But I would say in case of Billie, maybe she's capable of traveling on a bigger scale, and especially when Jupiter transiting, Jupiter is so close to her Pluto, it's right on her Pluto. Of course she's traveling the whole world, like already for a year or so, but once Jupiter gets closer to Sun, and by the end of the year to South Node and Chiron, I think she might feel a bit of a burnout from traveling, so she might probably want to take a pause and reframe her work in some way, or maybe look into something else. So once Jupiter gets into Capricorn in beginning of December, she might slow down her traveling, and or at least restructure in some way to look at how she's doing things, right? To maybe change the organizational statement. Anyways guys, I think I got a little bit too long here. It's already quite a long video. That was just my spontaneous analysis, and feel free to check the links which I put in the description. Maybe you'll just learn something new. That was Billie Eilish chart. Enjoy the music.